What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the studio. Welcome back to the Recording Ninja workshops. Hope you're all doing well, having a good time, making a lot of cool recordings, cool music, all that fun stuff. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about snare drum miking. Now, this is going to be the first of a couple things we'll do over the next couple months, and I just kind of wanted to take the opportunity today to talk about a few basic things with the top mic, a little bit of placement, proximity to the head, and even a little bit just about mitigating some bleed with the hi-hat. Now, a lot of the placements with the snare mic, now this will kind of depend on the mic, but I have found in general that some of it's not drastic differences. Sometimes it's maybe a 5% difference in a position, sometimes a 10% difference. But that little bit could be in the ring or in the dryness that could have an effect in the overall track. But a lot of the times it's not night and day difference. The same thing when we go to start trying to mitigate some bleed. You know, it's a game of inches here. We're not going to get a, like a totally isolated sound, nor is that necessarily the goal. But what we have here today, I've got a Heil PR22 on top, trying something a little bit different. Fantastic mic for the snare. We've really been digging it during sound check. So we're going to start off with a couple positions here. Well, actually the same position, and then we're going to just kind of go back and forth between where it is now, which is for the most part, you can see the angle there. We're pointing at the center of the head, and then we're going to angle it down towards the head and see how that changes the low end, changes the ring, and just like the body of the drum. Then we're going to do another position or two, and then we've got a homemade, very easy and cheap to make little baffle that we'll use, and we'll see if it helps at all. And it does actually make a little difference, but like I said, a lot of this stuff is a game of inches. You're just trying to get a little bit of extra, or a little less bleed here, a little less bleed there. Maybe take some of the top end that's coming from the hi-hat out of there. If you could just mitigate that even a little bit, that starts to help your overall drum sound. Now we're going pretty basic. We've got a couple mics on the kick, MXL A55 inside, CS5 from Studio Project the outside. We do have an SM57 on the bottom of the snare, 4047s for overheads, and an A3000 on the hat. We're really just going to focus on the snare and then hear it just in the basic setup with the overhead so you can hear how that kind of affects that sound too. So without further ado, let's bring Dr. Howe out here and let's hear, well, we'll just dive right into the setup a little bit. All right, cool. Well, he's not going to want my sticks. No. All righty. What is going on, everybody? Let's see. Come on. All right, Hal, you there, buddy? So first off, just give me, I'm going to leave all the mics up, and just give me a groove and play some ghost notes on the snare, maybe a little snare fill every couple bars. Let's just get an idea of what the whole thing sounds like. Go for it. Cool, cool, cool. Now I did forget to mention we are using a 6.5 by 14 Ludwig Black Beauty, and it has on the top is a 14-inch. Obviously it's a 14-inch drum, but it's a coated clear sound. Control sound X on the top, and I want to say on the bottom. I have no idea what's on the bottom of that drum. My guess is it's exactly what on there when we got it from Ludwig a couple months ago, but it sounded good, so I didn't change it. So that's what we're working with today. So hey, play that same groove again, and let me just solo up the snare. Go for it. All right, so there's just our snare. That's a good sounding snare, actually. It's got a nice body. It's got a good attack to it and good punch. You do hear the bleed of the hats coming in over the top of it. Those are the Dark Energy Pisces, correct? Which do have a bit of they're kind of glassy sounding and a very specific kind of 810K on it. But it's not horrible bleed, not yet. Do the same thing, Hal, and play 2 bars with the closed hat and then 2 bars with the open. No, just normal. So that's actually, that bleed is not too bad, actually. Even when it goes to the open hi-hats, the ratio of snare to hi-hat is very acceptable there. Now, let's go to the second thing. Let's just tilt. What we're going to do is going to tilt that mic down. And this is another placement I see a lot do. Now, just play that same groove. Now put it back to the normal position real quick. Same thing. All right, point it back down. All right, cool. All right, so we still have kind of the body is similar. However, we've got definitely more of the overtone due to the fact that the mic is pointed down more towards the edge of the drum. It's also considerably closer to the head there, which is also adding a little bit of proximity effect. So we're getting a little bit of extra bottom in there because that microphone is so close to the head. If you have, now this could be a good thing actually, and I'm not saying, one thing I want to make clear is I'm not looking at any of this as a right or wrong thing at all. These are all just different positions or different ways you can capture the snare. Whatever you're recording for, the music that is going to determine what would be the best. And the only person that can determine that is you when you're setting the mics up and doing sound check. So all I want to do is go through some of these positions to see how the mic reacts and how it changes the snare drum, just to arm you with kind of that information of what happens when you move the mic around. So do in that position, give me 4 bars. Go 8 bars, 2 closed, 2 open, and ghost notes and a snare fill somewhere. Now put it back in the normal position quickly, and same thing. Wow, holy crap. That's when you hear them back to back like that, it's really different, which is cool. One definitely has more ring, and you could say kind of more life to it. When it's up, how far are we up? 3 fingers. Okay. And aim towards the center. We're definitely getting a little more snap, less body, less ring. You put it down the other way, you're going to get more proximity effect. The other way being pointed down towards the edge of the snare, you're going to emphasize the ring and some proximity effect. The hi-hat is also a little different in each of them, the bleed that is. Now both of these positions are pretty common, and again, it's whatever, it really depends on what you're trying to record, because sometimes that ring is bitching, and sometimes it is so freaking annoying and you're trying to get rid of it later. Now, real quick, play just on closed hi-hat. I'm gonna bring everything up. Give me 4 bars of groove with it there. Angle it back down in 4 bars of groove. And I'm going to pull the overheads and everything in. So now we have all the mics on. Let's see if we hear any difference there. Are we in normal position? All right, go for it. Yeah, even with everything on, you hear the ring change. I actually kind of like it with the ring, actually. I mean, it would depend on what we're doing, but it adds with the overheads and everything, it adds a little bit of life to it. Okay, so that's two very normal positions. Now, you want me to come out there? Can you adjust that? So what we're gonna do is keep it kind of the same as position 1, but we're gonna put it over underneath the hi-hat. So now we're gonna get the hi-hat at the back end of the microphone. Yeah, yep. And hold on a sec, hold on. We're gonna go just snare drum, go for it. Now move it back to where we had it before. There is a slight difference. There is a slight difference with the tick of the hi-hat. It is a little bit less when it's underneath the hat, but not a huge difference. Now, I should, so everybody understands where these mic positions are, our starting point, which where it is now, would be if you're sitting at the kit with your drummer, it's basically between the hi-hat and between the rack tom. And that's where it's coming in. And then he had just moved it to check it, putting it completely under the hi-hat. A lot of this is going to depend on how your drummer is setting up the kit. Like for instance, yesterday I was on a session with a friend of mine, Tim, which I'll have some video out of probably tomorrow, just a little behind the scenes of our setup. He plays his hi-hat so close to the snare and low that the only mic I could get in there was my angled 57. And it was so tight that it's only about an inch away or so from the hi-hats. So and same when I worked with Sammy Watson, he plays things very tight because I know for drummers it's very comfortable. So a lot of this will depend on how the drummer sets up. Obviously, the more room, the better it is for us as engineers to capture something with less bleed. Also, what will make a difference is how the drummer hits the hats, which we'll get to in just a second. Okay, let's go to our flat position. Now, this is going to be just barely over the rim, flat, down close to the head, pointing directly across the snare drum. And I really like this position a lot of the times. Yeah, that looks about right. Let's hear that. Boom. The cool thing about this is you hear the body of the drum kind of changes. It also, one thing when it's not pointing at it, we're not trying to emphasize any of the extra overtone coming from the side, but we're also not up and pointing towards the center where we're getting snap but less body. We're kind of in a little bit of best of both worlds scenario, at least in my opinion here, where even though it's not necessarily pointing at the head, it's pointing straight across it, we're still getting some snap and it's getting what's coming up off the drum. But because it's lower down, we're getting a little bit of extra body and fatness. However, play the groove again, listen to the hi-hats. Now open them. We have a little extra bleed here because we're not using the advantage of the mic with being a tighter cardioid polar pattern. We're not using the advantage of having the hi-hats behind where the mic is pointing at. So we're going to get a little bit of extra bleed. Now, if I do this a lot without doing anything extra, depending on the drummer and how they play or how high, the hi-hat is over the snare. Sometimes don't do anything else and it's fine. Sometimes it's a huge problem and you have to kind of move things around a little bit. Now, one thing you can do, you'll notice, here, I'm gonna come out real quick. we have this wonderful homemade kind of baffle that is just gaff taped to a mic stand. It's a piece of foam, and I tore some cardboard off. I believe this is from a set of Christmas lights. And like I said, I've taped it to the snare stand. And this makes it, or snare stand, mic stand, sorry. This makes it easy to kind of maneuver and place this. It's also not so big to where it will get in the way of most drummers. You know, I have a bigger one. If there's a lot of room, I have one that's like twice the size of this that we can use. I know if you guys are familiar with Bruce Sweden, he's probably got the most famous one. It's made out of wood and actually has some, I think, mass-loaded vinyl in the middle, and he's used that. Again, it's going to depend on the drummer. My session yesterday, there is no way I could have done this. There wouldn't be room, but with the way Hal sets up, and this is pretty much the same as your normal, right? So his tom would be here. We've got plenty of room right here to kind of block it out. Now this is, we are not trying to make it so we have no hi-hat in the snare. Not going to happen. That's not even my goal. I'm not worried about a little bit of bleed at all. Matter of fact, I tend to like a little bit here and there because it kind of helps pull the entire kit together. If it's too much, it's no bueno. But in this case, what we're trying to do is just block out a little bit of the hi-hat. So what I'm going to do is, I know it's a little hard to see from your guys' angle, but the entire microphone is being blocked by this. The hi-hats, I'm up here with the hats, cannot see the mic at all. And then let's start with, can we do this, play a few bars, and then we'll back it up? We'll do the hammered hi-hats in a minute. So just play normal. All right. Let's see. Okay. Give me that groove again. Open the hats. Close. Open. Now move that back. Let's see if this is actually helping us at all. And do the same thing, please. Move it back over. I think it's kind of subdued our, our 10K, 10K. Oh yeah. 2, 3. Oh yeah, okay, that has definitely changed the high end considerably. It's also slightly changed the snare sound. Although in context, I doubt you'd notice. Right now, we're just soloed up with that top mic. But the reason I have the cardboard on the back is I'm trying to just reflect some of that high end. And high end, 8, 10K up in that area, 6K even, is a lot easier to deal with because the wavelengths are so short. So it's easy to reflect, it's easy to absorb. Now, the other side being foam and being right next to the mic is most likely why it's darkened our tone just a hair, is it's absorbing some of that top end, and the other side is reflecting it back to the hats. Now, is it night and day? No. Again, not looking to do that. What I like about using that baffle, though, is it does change that like 8 to 10K area. So if I was to go EQ, and right now there's nothing happening, we are completely flat. Say I wanted to add a little bit of 10K or 8K on the snare, or even some 5K if I wanted some little bit lower high end to the snare drum. Without the baffle, it's going to take all of that top of that hi-hat and boost that as well. By having that little homemade baffle there, it subdued some of that enough to where when I add some to the snare, it's not going to let my hi-hat get out of control in the snare drum mic. And that's all I'm trying to do. I want a little bit of flexibility. I'm not looking to isolate completely. If you're going to do that, just use samples. And I'm not trying to use samples. I want a real drum set. And this is a position mic position I really like, to be honest with you. It's a good one when it works. If the hi-hat was down too close to, considerably lower, it wouldn't work. Or I don't want to say it wouldn't work, but it would make it a little bit more difficult, especially if the drummer was playing heavy hi-hats. All right, one last thing I want to cover. And this is really, really important because all of this is great. This mic position is great. Your mic choice, it's all fun, it's all awesome. But it all only matters how the drummer's hitting. So whatever mic you use or whatever position is only going to be as effective as the drummer playing it. And hi-hats are one of those areas I find a lot of the times that drummers they treat them like they owe them money. Like the hi-hat stole money from them. They're just beating the crap out of them. Is it a sound? Yeah, it is a sound. But you got to remember, the louder you play those hi-hats, the mic, the overheads, the snare mic, all those other mics that are around it become hi-hat mics too. So let's do one thing. Move our baffle out of the way. And this would be more telling, actually. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Hal hammer the crap out of the hats. So do that same 4-bar phrase with the open and close hats. Now put the baffle back. Let's see if it helps. See, we have a ton more of that high-end presence from the hi-hats. It makes a difference. It takes some of that. Again, it's up around 8 or 10K. Now the hi-hats will also have a large effect on this. So you have the way the drummer's hitting them, like the stick size and the force, and then you have the hi-hats themselves. One thing about the Dark Energies is, although they are kind of glassy and have a very particular 8 to 10K range, they are not a boomy hi-hat. They're pretty fast, so they kind of get in and get out. There'll be some hi-hats that when you open them, the mid-range, like anywhere from, it could be down to like 800 hertz to 2K, will just be huge. These hi-hats are a little bit scooped there. They don't have that. So that's something you want to pay attention to when you're adjusting your top mic. One, it's proximity of the drummer's instruments, hat, snare, rack tom. Then obviously the proximity of the snare to the hat is a big one. And then kind of adjust your mic, and then pay attention to how the drummer's hitting it. If the drummer feels comfortable, you can have them ask them to try to make a bit of a change there. But a lot of the times on the spot in a session, man, that makes a lot of drummers uncomfortable, and it affects everything. So as an engineer, you just got to try to mitigate it as best you can. Maybe it's changing a microphone. A 57 can be good with that. Maybe it's making a homemade baffle. Just get what you have and make something that you can slide in there and try to take care of a little bit. But you just got to try to do the best you can, because you're never going to get rid of all of it, right? Unfortunately, that's the way it is. Oh, let's see who. Juan, you love the singing snare? Yeah, nice. We are tall as trees, been after the Let's Dance snare side. You know what? I'm going to have to listen to that. My guess is Gated Room is correct. But you know what? I'll take a listen to that and see. Hello from Colombia. What's up? Good to have you here. Cool. Now, snare drum mics. One last thing, I guess. Some of them, 57, I'm sure most of us have used. Probably everybody owns one. Can't go wrong with that. We actually have that on the bottom right now. Actually, don't hammer the hi-hats, play groove on. I'll pull the bottom snare in. Play groove. Some fills. So here's the bottom. That's just the bottom. Top, together. Everybody. Uno, dos, tres. Boom. The thing with the bottom snare mic, I don't always use them. I almost always set one up. I don't always use them, but they can help add some brightness and a little bit of actual snap without having to EQ too much of the top mic. They can also, depending on the way your drummer plays a ghost note, they can also help either articulate them better, or in Howe's case, he does a pretty good job of pulling the ghost notes out, but when I pulled the bottom snare mic in, it actually thickened them up just a little bit, which was kind of cool. So it can be very useful. And that is a 57 on the bottom. I'd say 9 times out of 10, that's what I'm using on the bottom is a 57. If I really want something super hi-fi, or maybe it's a jazz thing or something, I might go condenser down there. But rock, pop, almost always condenser on the bottom. Huh? No, I'm talking about the bottom snare. Oh, you mean for the, yeah, the 3000, you know what I'm going to do? I think next week I'm going to start a quick, like every Monday, put up a 2-minute video of some of my favorite gear, because the 3000 is one of those condenser mics that I just absolutely love because it's open on the top, but it's not brittle. So on a bottom snare, on a hi-hat, even as overheads, they're great. But you can use them to get the open kind of condenser sound without getting any of that brittleness at all. And they have a very nice full mid-range to them, which kind of helps make cymbals smooth. Also good for the bottom of a snare mic. But anyway, guys, that's what we have today. Thanks for joining us. You know, pick your mic. We've got a Heil 22 here. 57's common. I really like the Audio-Technica Pro 63, as you all know if you've seen the videos. Probably one of my favorite top snare mics. But there's others out there. Let me know if you got a different one that I'm not using. Let me know, because I want to check some of this stuff out. And like I said, this is the first of our snare drum things that we'll do. So we'll do some more in the future. But thanks, guys. Hold on. We got a question. No, Ben, I have not done any of the mods. Hey, Ernesto, where did you have that one MXL modded? Is it JJ Audio or front end? It was JJ Audio? Yeah, Ernesto has a 2001 condenser? The MXL 2001 condenser modded by JJ Audio. Holy crap. Really, really nice, actually. Really nice. But I have not tried any of the front end audio mods on snare mics. I have something to research now tonight when I can't sleep. That's going to be awesome. So thanks for that, Ben. So, all right, guys, thanks for joining us. How you rule, Tal you rule, Ernesto you rule. I'd like to say I rule, but that would sound kind of weird, wouldn't it? All right, guys, we'll see you in a couple weeks. We've got a band coming in. We're going to do some live recording. Got some cool stuff coming up. So we'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Take care.